This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome everybody to the Digital Campfire today. Presented together with all of you by and for us. We together. It's good to be here. And we like to start with the practice of gratitudes. And I'll kick that off with a sense of appreciation for a shared space that doesn't have to have a intense focus on a result, other than us being intent on a result of togetherness. I'm grateful for this beautiful sun streaming in the window here in the morning on this side of a round planet in California. And I'm grateful for the beeping that tells us that our coffee is ready. Grateful for coffee and a family. And why don't I hand it over to Melanie? Hi, Melanie. It's good to see you today.
Thanks. I've been laying low off of the computer because, there's things to do outside right now, and the weather is absolutely perfect. And I missed this last year, thinking that the weather would stay cool. In the past, our summers have been kind of cold and wet, and we had a heat wave. So, this time it's like, okay, I'm not messing around. I'm taking advantage of the good weather, getting in the dirt, making more beds, planting more seeds, and, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, definitely thankful to be here. And it really did work out well. I've been trying to get to this for a while, and yeah, nice to see this. And Randall, you're right in the middle of my screen. So I think that's kind of appropriate, like as if you're the heart of this. So I really appreciate being. Who is Pythagorean? Is that Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your consistency in continually inviting me. And then finally today, something aligned, and can take a little bit of a break. But thank you, and glad to be here. Glad to see all of you here. So new faces, a few, and yeah, it's kind of cool. Thanks.
Grateful to have you here.
Mm-hmm. Should I be passing it on to somebody else? Perfect. Is that the idea? Okay, I'm sorry, I'd pick Maisha. I've just butchered your name though, right?
Hey, Maya.
Maya.
Yeah, it's just
Okay.
Maya.
You know what? I was gonna chicken out and pick somebody that I knew, and I thought, no.
No,
I'm
you're brave. You're brave.
Yeah. Maya, thank you.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here in this space. Very contemplative day. So I want to say I'm grateful for peace. Peace I'm in myself now, and I'm grateful for the time I grew up in. And I'm grateful for my son and how much reflection I get from seeing him grow. So that's a little bit for me today. And I'll pass it on to Manuel. Yeah.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Sorry I was a little bit late. Thank you, Chris, the brother, for inviting me. It's really beautiful to be here. I really don't know what to expect, but it feels like the right energy. So yeah, happy to be here. Grateful to join and to bring the spirits that come with me. And yeah, thank you very much. Looking forward.
pass her off, Manuel. And if you don't want to, then I
Oh,
can
well,
pass
sorry,
it forward
sorry.
to. Yeah,
Yeah,
just pass to someone. Yeah.
I just don't know who already talked.
Oh,
maybe
true.
you can do that. Thank you. Sorry.
True. Yeah, it's all good. Michelle, how about you?
Hello, good afternoon from where I am in Vermont. And I was invited by Josh Fairfield, my first time being here, and just delighted. I am grateful for receptivity, for how receptive people are, the universe, and how how meeting that can feel confusing sometimes, but always always enriching. Like it feels like that's where my sense of like the richness of life, especially, you know, connecting with humanity, can come from. So grateful for receptivity. Thank you.
And who would you like to pass it to?
If I was reading
If
lips
I can read
correctly, I
lips.
thought I heard Evan.
Oh,
Is that what you heard, Kathy, or no?
I don't know. Evan, go ahead. Evan, I see you.
Okay, I'll go. I'm grateful for the gratitude practice itself. I've been going nonstop since 5 a.m. today. Haven't even eaten, so just slow down into gratitude is where my gratitude is, just for the practice in and of itself. Grateful for the blooms on the magnolia tree out the window and all the buds here in Michigan. It tells of summer coming. And I'm grateful to this body. I've asked a lot of it over the last week. It's been very agreeable. So I'm really grateful for that. And grateful to be here with y'all. New faces, familiar faces. And more than faces, I can feel the heart and soul that's being called into the container. So thank you for bringing yourselves in whatever form you're showing up for, showing up as. I'm grateful to you. So thank you. And I'll pass to Kathy.
Thanks, Evan. That was really nice reflection. This morning, I'm feeling especially grateful for the possibility of reconciliation. I'm grateful for conversations, honest conversations that create the potential for reconciling, hurt, misunderstanding, shared desire. I'm just really grateful for reconciliation, and I'm grateful for my body. I'm grateful for the collective body that we will create in this container with this conversation. I'm grateful for the body of the earth. I'm grateful for the body of the cosmos. Grateful for the body. And I'm grateful that where I stand today, the body of earth is offering many blooms in the spring season. So, and I'm grateful to be here with you all. So thanks for joining. And with that, I will pass it to Peter.
Hello, good afternoon. Grateful to be here. I've been wanting to attend, I think, since the first one with the invitation. And this morning I'm walking around looking at all the buds in the yard that didn't make it past that late frost. And I felt a little bit like that, like many buds had been emergent, and then the late frost came. And then today I'm just noticing how grateful that sometimes that saves a little bit of pruning. Can be quite a healthy and natural practice. So I feel like this is like my second flush of buds coming out here. I was really grateful to come into the music and singing. That was really grounding. And the comfort already of the voices and gratitude shared today. So I'm looking forward to this. Thank you. I will pass to Kathy.
Chris, I think we're back to you. Yeah.
Okay, back to Chris. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we did Kathy. Yep. I think we're back to the beginning.
Thanks, Big Pete. and thank you all for being here. You know, I'm reflecting on my gratitude to Pachamama, Mother Earth, and all the gifts that she gives, including the raw materials that make it possible for us to have the technology to have this conversation. And grateful for her. I'm grateful for the sun and moon, for the Queen Creek watershed, and for the Queen Creek itself, which has been a big blessing to my family and others throughout the many years. Grateful for the O'odham, the Holgam, and the Salado and Apache people who've come here before, for the place that I'm at today. And I'm grateful for all the wisdom that we've inherited, and all the heart that's in this circle now with us today. So with that, we'll call our gratitudes that we've done here complete for now, and we can start to get into it. So thanks again for coming, like I said, and we're going to be doing similar to a talking circle. It'll be more rounds since we're not all physically present today. So just how we did that passing, we'll do something similar with some prompting questions. We have some prompting questions here, and a lot of it is around the culture that's emerging around Web3, our hopes, aspirations, and concerns. And so we'll get into more what that looks like, but logistically for a moment, the plan, and we'll see what actually happens, is that we'll have 2 minutes each to respond to these prompting questions. And after the 2 minutes, we'll pass it to someone else. If you ever at any point in time don't want to engage with the question, then don't feel that you're obligated to. You can simply just say pass and then pass it to somebody else. I'm going to go off on a limb and Evan, ask you if you happen to have a rattle handy. I know it's quite a crazy question to ask you, but do you happen to have a rattle
That
handy?
would be a stretch, wouldn't it?
Right, it would be super stretch.
Why would you think that it would be strange?
and that's to serve as a 2 minute signal. And so Evan, if you wouldn't mind keeping time as we go through this, and then Evan can signal with the rattle when we've got to 2 minutes, and then that'll be the prompt to wrap her up and to pass it on.
Yeah, I got a rattle somewhere. Hold on.
Okay, any questions about the format? Should be pretty straightforward. Oh, nice. Yeah, I know. Like anything can be a rattle, right?
Once I used a box of crackers.
Yep.
This is the sound. Sacred rattle for a sacred space.
Nice. Wonderful. Okay, good. And then final logistic item will be if we have anyone who drops in the middle of this, when someone's finished their piece, we'll greet them, ask them if they'd like to share gratitudes, and then we'll just proceed from there. So I think with that, we know what we're doing, and we can start with the first question. And And then, like we said, just pass it once you've given your answer. And the first question is, why did you go down the Web3 rabbit hole? And where are you on your journey now? So we'll just see if anyone wants to signal that they'd like to begin.
I have a
Okay.
question.
Yeah, sure, Michelle. Yeah.
Can you define Web3? I know that sounds really silly, but what?
Yeah, and
Can you?
and just to like in short, I've heard it as like rebranding the crypto space, and all these questions that we have on Web3, we can say like, or you can just replace it with technology in general. So we have that as an ongoing out, so we can press it forward. So yeah, thanks for that clarifying question, Michelle, because that is a theme throughout the prompting questions. And before we get into that, Roberto, hola, what's
Welcome.
up? Good to see you, brother.
Hey everyone, sorry for the delay.
All
I'm
good.
Italian.
Well,
Your presence more than makes up for it.
that's right. And we haven't actually really begun into the meat of what we're doing. So it's a good time for you, if you'd like, to share some things you're grateful for, to join us in this way, if you'd like. Up to you.
I just came back from a tour eating up some plants just straight out of the ground with somebody that was just showing us, oh, you can eat this and you can make tea out of this, and this is for that and this is for that. So I'm very grateful for nature to just bring so much goodness all around us and to acquire that kind of knowledge as well. This is my gratefulness for the day.
Nice, nice. Right on. So what we're doing is prompting questions and doing rounds where we're passing it over 2 minutes per response. And with that, I'll just ask the question again, which is, why did you go down the Web3 rabbit hole, and where are you on your journey now?
I came into this space out of I came out of feeling a severe deficit of human contact, and I really was needing the kind of connection that we can make by looking at each other's faces. I had been a remote worker in a company that didn't have good enough technology for 10 years. And I felt on the short end of that entire process of being in an organization and being disconnected. I'm very grateful for the way our technology has advanced so much and enabled these social connections, being able to look at a screen full of 10 people and having a shared purpose within this space. It's not the same as being inside a room of 10 people, but the access to 10 people who feel ways that I feel is so much more powerful than being in a room of 10 randos. And that's at least 2 minutes worth of how I came to this technology space.
Still have 15 seconds, Randall, if you want to use it.
I'm going to use it to say, hey, Maya, how did you come to the world of tech?
Oh, that's a big question. I feel like I've always been in this world. At least, one technology leading to another technology. And for me, technology has always been something very fascinating and something, my friend, and it has been incredibly painful to see how other people would experience it as something else, as something othering and scary, and to start noticing how it is eroding social fabric. So when I stumbled into actual Web3 space, and heard people talking not about technology, but talking about governance and permaculture and all the things I would be anyway involved with, I was really curious to learn about actual Web3, just because of the diversity of the opinions there. And where am I in my journey? Oh, that's a rabbit hole, isn't it? I guess I am now at the point where I want to really see how I can reconcile and reconcile the knowing, understanding, and doing, and see where that brings me, how to actually apply things. So, how about me? And I'll pass it on to Melody.
Good question. And could take a long time to get into details, but I feel like I was looking for this rabbit hole. I saw failed legacy systems, our financial system falling apart. As I'm getting older, haven't planned like other people might have for the future, and got drawn into the allure of crypto. And also through that, it was a difficult time because I got scammed, several times. And it's like all the time, it was like, well, what about the last person in? And this FOMO, this fear of missing. Come. So that's not disrupting at all. That's okay.
You were
Yeah,
saying? Sorry about
yeah,
that.
that's it. That's okay. But yeah, it's just the ground is ready and I don't know what's coming. There's governance things. There's really a lot of possibility and a lot of potential in this. And again, it's like where this rabbit hole leads is somewhere around a corner that we don't quite see. I feel like it has more potential than anything else out there. Thank you, Evan. As I said, this is failed legacy systems that drew me in, and that's why I'm in this rabbit hole, looking for something that won't fail and is more sustainable. Awesome. I'm going to pass it on to Kathy.
Thanks, Melanie. And I actually haven't thought about the answer to these questions, even knowing some of the questions. I think what drew me in was curiosity. I find myself being curious about alternative ways of knowing, doing, being, appreciating that the current paradigm that I find myself in feels misaligned, feels somehow broken, feels somehow dissonant to me. And so the principles behind Web3 around community, around decentralization, around creating more agency within communities or people who don't have those things typically, piqued my curiosity. And anytime there's sort of like a big sort of new burst of energy around something, it makes me want to go in and sort of bear witness. And so my posture has been more of a witnesser and more of an observer, in many cases, paying attention to what are the new patterns that this particular technology met with principles and community and ways of being and leadership, philosophies. Like, what are the new patterns that are actually coming into being within this particular rabbit hole, as we call it. I found also that what led me further in was feeling like, again, a lot of it was a feeling a sense of connection to a lot of the other people I found that were being attracted, like Web3 being the strange attractor of people and a community that I somehow felt a resonance with in different ways. And so I think there's something around really the principles and the people for me that feels the most alive. The technology piece is not as foreground for me personally. I appreciate its role in the space, but it's more of a background. The things that draw me in are the conversations, I'll pause there. And with that, Roberto, my gaze went to you. So let's go there.
Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, I found this rabbit hole at the end of the previous rabbit hole. So I was looking at alternatives way to, alternative economic systems. And I went into the rabbit hole of this resource-based economy, an economy that is valuing resources instead of money. So it's, and I was so fascinated about it because I thought, oh, this is a valid alternative. This we can actually do, and this is going to solve so many problems. So, well, I was building simulations and so on. Will this work out? Will it not work out? And at the end, it's like, well, it will work out, but we need something that is immutable or nobody can actually have control of, because, you know, if you have an app or a server, we need something that, that is resilient, and something that once we agree, we cannot change unless we agree how to change it. And then I was looking into the Bitcoin protocol, because I was thinking like, okay, this thing it's almost like that, but it's not exactly that. And as I was looking into that, I stumbled on what then became Ethereum. So I was into Ethereum before Ethereum. And when that came out, I was holding people by their jacket and say, this is going to change everything, because now this is possible, and I know what you can do with this kind of thing, because I needed this to actually get there. And of course, then story tells that I said, well, I don't have to do it, somebody else would do it. But in practice, the user experience of using Web3, what's now called Web3, is so bad that it's still, the change is still not happening. So I was wrong there. Probably I should have done it myself. But where I'm at right now is that even if you do have the technology, I kind of figure out that it's not just about the tech to make the change happen. It's really about, it's a societal exterior transformation and a human interior transformation that's required, and both at the same time. And it's a dance between the two. And technology is just there facilitating this dance, and is not the means to the end. Well, it's a tool. So we need the right code. I'll pass it to Michelle.
All right. I owned some crypto for about 20 minutes once. So crypto is not my main focus and what's drawn me in. And in fact, I would say what truly drew me in was a dream that was manifested as a person a year and a half ago who I felt just this strange familiarity with. So when I really asked about that, it was from a dream 20 years prior. So there was really this very strange amalgam of things that brought me out of a place where I don't have a Facebook account. I've never, I had never owned crypto, pretty much not tied into Web3 at all, almost unaware of it up until a year and a half ago. But this person from my dream, who was manifesting, was someone who was like preaching about crypto and really passionate about crypto. And I was like, okay, I guess I got to do this. So that was my journey in, was kind of meeting an evangelist and also being deeply skeptical. And that was, both of those things were okay. And I've learned all about the relationship part and the looking for solid ground part and the transformative capacity and what this passion is that's ignited in so many people. And even though, it's painful and hidden underground in these rabbit holes half the time, but it's there and I see it and it's pretty exciting. And where do I see myself going? The last thing I did, believe it or not, a year and a half later, entered a contest for a world build, an AI world build. So in that time, I'm now researching AI and futurism. And so a lot's happened. I am remaining really curious, but the intersection of what I see right here is, I feel really satisfied that I'm on the right path to be here in the space with you all. And thank you. And passing to Peter.
Great. Okay, so my Web3 rabbit hole, like probably some of us, has begun in a prior rabbit hole. And I was situated in a community and university heavily involved with early web development and internet, a community that claims to be the first in the US to have community-based internet in Blacksburg, Virginia. And so I was around a lot of people working on technologies, and I did technology myself. And over the course of a 25-year career there, you notice some of the imbalances. And with my children, 17-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old son, as they were becoming curious about and learning about the web and crypto and NFTs, and started asking questions, I thought this was perfect time to go down a deeper rabbit hole with them leading a lot of the times, and to try to understand how we could get in right relationship with the technologies and the values, and try to understand the relationship with maybe what catches a lot of people, like financing or money economy of crypto, and trying to figure out ways to transmute that into values that matter in relationship with ourselves, with our family, friends, and the land. And so we're still in that rabbit hole trying to figure out how to do that. And I can think back to a campfire that we had here in the backyard, maybe more than, well, it would have been December. And just sort of, we got stuck. Well, we don't know how to move forward with Web3 without going back to some of those exploitative ways. And so I feel much more confident and excited today to see what's been emerging in that potential of how we do actually carry out the shift and in relationship. So thank you. I'm going to pass to Randall.
I already went, although I didn't tell where I'm on the journey now. I'll just add 15 seconds on that. I came in on a technical track, and I continue on a technical track, but with much, much, much greater connection to the social layer. People really are layer 0. It's not about the tech. And I'll pass to Manuel.
Thank you, Randall. I'm just, I guess, at the threshold of Web3, really. I have been, like everybody here, looking for ways out of where all this leading, and one of the searching is just letting ourselves go, whatever things are taking us. I am an artist, so in my own path, I've been looking for new languages. I think that to change, we need to find new ways of talking to each other. So that's what been my focus so far. I'm always also collaborating with a group of tech brothers and sisters here in Vancouver. I'm in Vancouver, and we're looking for platforms, and Web3 have been an option. But we're looking at many things at once. We have this brainstorm thing. Actually, I have to leave at 10 because we're meeting at that time. So I apologize for that beforehand. But I just like it's being said here, is a human factor that I'm attracted to in this around Web3, and that's the focus of everything I do. So humanity and freedom and life as a whole. That's why I'm here. I'm gonna pass it to Evan.
Thank you, Manuel. Let me start the timer on myself, otherwise I'll definitely go longer. I'm a believer that technology changes the world. Language is technology. If you look at the course of human history, it's technology that seems to bring in the next revolution. And looking out at the world, I see at a systemic level that so many of our systems aren't functioning in a way that serves life, that serves our communities, that serves people. But they certainly serve the system, and they certainly serve financial interests, which capital has come to dominate our world. And so I see how Web3 delivers the promise of democratizing power, democratizing access, coordinating decisions, and I can see how this technological solution is, I think, part of the answer, the solution that I've been dreaming about when I bang my head against the wall, lamenting about our current systems. And I can see that fit in. Where I'm currently at in the journey is that I'm a little bit skeptical or dubious that the technology alone will fix it, because as many others here have suggested, I've become convinced over the last 18 months in particular that at the end of the day, this is about human capability and human capacity. This is about humans first and the level of being. And so my Web3 journey has taken me to wanting to be at the level of being first as the prime mover before we get into the doing and the tech and anything that we layer on top of that. There it is. I'm going to pass it to Chris.
Thank you, Evan. Am I coming through okay? Yeah, thank you. In some ways, I come to this space out of a perceived necessity. And I've been doing community work in the nonprofit context, and I've realized how the incentive structures are like all wrong for us to be able to effectively be a benefit. And so my work within Web3 and my interest in it is more on like the conditions levels more than the cause level. It's like seeing that we have these economic conditions and certain structures that lead to certain outcomes. So it was through that and a promise of greater human coordination that attracted me into this space. And now I have concerns about so much of the innovation that we do being co-opted and used against or used for non-life-serving purposes. And so my interest is in helping folks who truly have altruistic and life-serving aims and seeing how I can best support those folks. And our desire to create this space is in a way a living example of how it is that that we're responding to what we're seeing, which is over functionalization, like functionalizing the human as human being, human doing versus what's true. So that's a big part of where I'm at now is nervous about where it could go and still looking to do my part to steer things in a good direction. So yeah, with that, I'll stop. And I also just in recognition of time and knowing, Manuel, that you got to be leaving here at the top of the hour, I thought it would be nice because where we're going to end today is us all talking a little bit about the projects that we're working on and promoting. And I really would like to give you a chance now before we go on to the next question to share a little bit about what it is that you're working on, what projects that you're promoting, and we can carry that thread to other conversations. So if you would spend a few minutes talking about that. And I think as far as time goes, we'll probably have to keep it to another 2 minutes, and that might be hard, but just noticing where we're at and some of the questions we're going to get to, that's probably what's needed. So if the floor is yours, Manuel, if you'd like to. And thanks for
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chris. Before I do that, I also want to thank or acknowledge how we met and the guidance that Validoma Patricio May has given us and brought us together. And I so trust that vision that, yeah. I am working on a bunch of things. I teach at the University of, here in Vancouver at UBC, and I teach art. So, but my projects are, on one hand, I am out of my experiences of many years teaching at university and seeing my kids going through the educational system. Education is a huge concern for me, of course. This is, and particularly universities where everything is perpetuated. So one of my projects is to create a school. It's pretty hard. It takes a lot of time and energy, but I'm working on that and slowly moving on. It's called the New Tribes School, and it's actually the name of the school, the New Tribes, is a vision from Validoma Patricio May. And the idea is basically the new tribes are across races and genders. We find ourselves together in different ways, and technologies allow that to happen. So it's a school basically, or a meeting place, or a school of, it's a federation of small schools that I'm trying to get together, right? Mostly focused on the preservation of indigenous and ancestral knowledges, languages, using these platforms, and I hope that Web3 will become that platform. But I'm using a visual, well, not a visual, a tool. It's called Hot Glue. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it. That allows for pretty much anybody to learn how to create web spaces in a matter of minutes. So my first attempt, starting this summer, is a small language preservation initiative up north here in Vancouver. So I'll leave it there. And the other part of it is the actual exploration of the online language. We have been indoctrinated and continue to be manipulated and dominated ideas everything is served or imposed on us in the language that we use online, right? The interface. The interface is the dominant language of the present, is the dominant image, and we have no way of using it. So it's a language that we're very well trained to listen, but we have no voice, right? And what Glue allowed us to do is to actually create our own workplaces. It's an amazing tool. It's been around for a long time. I just discovered it actually last year, but the possibilities are incredible, and I've been using it in my classes with a lot of success. So I've been creating these spaces online. I can share the link later. So that's basically it. I do think that the language is where we need to start to change ourselves. Our minds are being formatted, and it's no way out of it if we don't speak that language. So thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, please put the links to your stuff into the chat here, just so we keep that thread alive, if you wouldn't mind. And then when you got to go, just feel free to just bounce out when it makes sense for you to leave as well. So thanks again for being here, brother. So we'll keep the train moving. And the next question we have here are, what are your hopes and concerns about the culture forming around Web3 or tech in general? What are your hopes and concerns about the culture forming around Web3? And we can start with where we began. So Melanie, we'll start with you if you don't mind.
I'm going to pass on this one. That'll save a couple minutes and pass it on. I'm actually just trying to set up so that I can fill some pots with dirt as well.
Nice.
Yeah, so, and I'll give you a much better view in just a few minutes. So passing.
Nice. Okay, Roberto, how about you?
Yeah, I think the biggest concern that I see is that kind of techno solutionism that that I was referring to, and we're referring to. I think the best, well, the concern of not being open to everyone, the concern that by using incentive systems of the machinery that we have created, that we're still creating different classes, because if you're the one there mining and you're living in this bubble across the miners are the one that are gaining. So we're just replacing a system with exactly the same. And so it does look and feel like it's good, but we end up having a sort of like a Airbnb for the sharing economy. What Airbnb is for the sharing economy, right? Or Uber, right? It's just like, yeah, the concept is good, still rooted into the same exact problem. So it's going to end up being exactly the same. So I just hope that, that there is a little bit of a wake up on that dimension, and that technologies have developed that are really from the base, from the design principles, from the bottom up, functioning to what we really need to achieve. Pass it to Maya.
Thank you, Roberto. I have a lot of hopes. Try to focus on the hopes because I also have a lot of concerns, but my hopes are that very much resonate with Manuel said with the pods. If we don't speak the language, or if the language is creative for us, we also can't express other patterns. And I really want to focus on how we can preserve the creativity of the web like it used to be, because people used to be able to hack and do whatever they like. We used to have time like that, so it was beautiful. But how we can enable anybody to hack and create spaces and interfaces that enable us to better connect as a community, on a community level, on a synergetic level, on a level that we trust each other more and we focus better. All the things that are needed for us to face a lot of these incredible challenges that are ahead of us. And I think that our interfaces themselves are just not enabling us to do so, and they're more and more imposed from, big tech, Google's material, this and that, and people get more and more fluent in one way of, receiving, and I really think it's creating some quite some destructive patterns, and that is maybe like really the concern that I have, the destructive little micro patterns that we're creating, the loss of focus, loss of the humanity of like we click on an order and we can dislike it, or we don't need to interact with the other person on the other end, and that they're real businesses, they're real humans, and yeah, but I hope we can change that. And I'll pass it on to everybody. Kathy, yeah.
I'm echoing a lot of what's been said. My concerns are a dissonance between theory and practice. Another way of saying that is like a felt sense of a bit of like disembodiment, even as I personally have navigated through the Web3 space of like yearning. My hope is really for like a sense of ground in the Web3 space. My concern is that I often still have a hard time imaging, or like what I've said is like somaticizing how Web3 lives in the physical manifest world at times. And a concern that came up recently, Chris, Evan, and Randall, what did Joel call it? Like it's a type something error. Do you remember?
Type 1 error, I think we call
Yeah,
it.
type 1 error, which is like we're missing the fact that like we have like an inherent design flaw in like the basic principles that we're operating from, which I perceive, Roberto, you to be kind of pointing at. Of my concerns are if we're like covertly bringing the pathologies of our current systems into our new systems, and we haven't become conscious enough ourselves to see what those things are, so that we can alchemize them or transmute them into the state we wish to bring into being. So my concerns is a little bit around pacing of, is the space moving so quickly that we haven't paused to really get clear for ourselves on what principles are guiding us, what our North Star is, what we need to cohere as people. I have some hopes for us in terms of reframing trust as not something that can necessarily be achieved through technology alone, that's really like a social, human felt experience. It's not like a objective, rationalized experience. There are ways technology can support that, but it's not something that technology can solve in and of itself. So my hope is that we remain rooted in life, in human, in embodiment, in principles oriented towards regeneration, that we reconcile, that we bridge, that we bring along the wisdom of the past with, and consider the present and what present tech offers us. So with that, Melanie, you're potting, is that right? So Michelle, why don't we go to you?
Thank you. Hopefully it's a little windy here. I hope you can hear me okay. Yeah, my main concern is the amount of non-renewable resources that the digital, like implementing increasing amounts of globalization in a digital way, that it's a blind spot. It feels like a blind spot. People are bringing attention to, the amount of energy that Bitcoin is using, and like there's a general awareness of that. But there's also, you know, it's when people get excited about, you know, the metaverse or the this, and how these immersive experiences and virtual reality are going to be, that I'm like, there's a cost to all that. And maybe, you know, I guess I foresee that IT is actually going to be an amazing an enhancer of human life, but not in the way that we imagine it right now. And so becoming that it can really enhance our ability to be more present, to be more ourselves, to be more resonant and more harmonically aligned. But we have to get the technology right. In the meanwhile, there are limited resources. We're on a planet with limited resources. So that's a big concern that I have, and how we're going to deal with that. One more, you know, like there's only so much money, right, in the world. There's only so much, you know, digital capacity that the Earth can sort of maintain, at least at a given time. And how do we determine that and really or be realistic about that? And let's see, who haven't we heard from with this question? I'm now overwhelmed by options. So, I don't think Peter, I pinged you last time. I'll just be safe and ping you again.
Sounds good. Thank you. So yeah, some of my hopes, I mean, echo many of the things said here, if not all of them. Feels like a moment in the foundation of, you know, Web3, whatever that may mean. A moment to try to get it right a little bit more so, and who's leading like towards this decentralization. Kind of see some of the big players still kind of leading us to what we thought might be the meadow. And yeah, so I think that's also my hope and my concern, is that we're getting the foundations really with integrity in how we relate to the technology itself in all of its aspects, whether it's tokens or language, and in relationship. This is through the lens of my children, and would see that as one of my hopes, is that we can do it a little better. And then also kind of realizing like that's a really hard and difficult challenge. So that's my concerns as well, and why I might show up in a space like this to try to find some of the others and remain inspired and invigorated that we are working to pay attention, to notice what's happening in these spaces. And that along those concerns, I hear, you know, you know, where the wealth and power and technology has accumulated over time, those are tending to lead quite a bit in these spaces, even if it's from the unseen. And, you know, when I hear groups or individuals say, well, we're the ones that created the former technological system, we're the only ones that can fix it, then I get a little bit concerned. So I would like to pass to Chris.
Yeah, thank you. I'll jump in a moment. Before that, Josh, want to welcome you into the space. Thanks for being here, brother. Feel free to, if you'd like now, share some things that you're grateful for, to drop in with us if you'd like.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to see you all. Sorry I'm late. I'm grateful for an ease of pace. It's been pretty frantic the last while. Now things are kind of settling into position, which is nice. Yeah, I'm also grateful I caught the end of what Peter was saying. It sounds pretty well, relevant is an understatement, but that's more necessary, I think, although I failed to grasp the full context. So, yeah, I'm grateful to see Michelle, who I've talked with online as well, here and there, but we've never actually had a video chat or anything like this. So it's great that she came. So I'm just grateful for that. I'm glad to see Roberto and Maya and Kathy and Randall and Evan, and there's a screen I can't see, but everybody else here, which is good company as well.
Thank you, brother. Nice. So you saw Kathy put the prompt in. What are your hopes and concerns with the culture forming around Web3 or tech in general? So my hopes are around culture is I think like every session of this that we do, I feel more hopeful and invigorated when I heard said earlier, this notion of finding the others. It's finding people who have like this great wisdom and devotion, both being put to work. So I get really hopeful around that, and I get hopeful when I hear people question that tech is the ground, that tech is the starting point. That I hear more and more on the culture of like from like what is it, degen to regen, or from DeFi to refi. People talking about taking the green pill. It's like I'm so happy that these memes are being floating around. Yeah, because depending on how, there we go. Yep, right. And to me, it's like a doorway into the depths of the lineages associated with the regeneration work that's happening. So it's nice to see that there's like a cultural relevancy for these ways of thinking and the epistemologies behind it. And then that there's the like spaces with a lot of really good and positive vibes. So that I'm appreciative of. Concerns, I have a lot. I mean, I'm concerned about in some cases seeing how like the critique is becoming the product in some cases. Like it's like so easy to like critique what's happening, and like there's my gift is the critique, and it's like I think we're over that at this point, and so that's a concern. And then there's also like just like the regen washing, just like green washing. I'm concerned about the notion of regen washing, like we just say regeneration, but like aren't taking the challenge to go deeper into what that all means and what it implies. So yeah, those are some of the concerns I have. And this whole thing turning into a co-opted control grid. So that I'm concerned that the culture that's here, if it's not strong enough, if there's not at least a strong enough of a center, that it gets dispersed and co-opted. So those are some of my concerns. Melanie, I'm wondering if now's a better time for you, or if you'd like, I could pass it over to Randall.
Let's pass to Randall. I'm almost back online. I'm listening in, catching a little bit here and there, but yeah, please, Randall.
I love that you're getting your hands dirty right now, Melanie. It's so perfect.
My hopes and concerns about the culture. Well, my concerns about the culture is that there isn't really any, that there's nothing cohering, or that the culture is a culture of hype, a culture of chasing the latest new shiny object. That because some thing isn't generating lots of signal right now, that it's not important, and only the thing that's most recent is relevant. And lots of concerns about doing only, or also lots of concerns about following only, oh, chasing the thing. And my hopes about the culture is that there are ways to center that we, within any particular subculture, subspace, or container, can have some center of shared meaning, and maybe spread that shared meaning in a more tangible way than just retweeting. And that there's something that we can do that is intentional and supported by technology so that people can be most effectively layer zero.
Okay, now I can pop in. I guess my concern is that things become too virtual. You know, that it becomes theory, it's all in our head, and we're not actually doing something. So, you know, this is the important thing. You know, I feel like there's a lot of potential in Web3, a lot of very virtual. It's on a game level. And how do we connect it to the real level, to the real world level? And, you know, understand, you know, connect things like carbon footprint. You know, how do we find the information about carbon sequestration that we can trust, and that we know that this is information that we can use? You know, I've grown up in a world where we had an encyclopedia, and that was our source of information. We have this access now to the possibility of having access to truth, you know, and legitimate information, so that we can be empowered to do the things that we need to do, actually physically do the things that we need to do. Yeah. So, and maybe it's seasonal, maybe there's times, you know, to be in the winter and reflecting, thinking about things, planning, and then there's other seasons when we've got to actually get out there and do it, do this stuff, and take what we're learning in this groups and put it to practice. I guess what I've been afraid of lately is that my gardening experience is becoming virtual, you know, in theory, and I haven't done enough of the practice of gardening and experimenting and actually doing it. It was too much in my head. So, you know, now it's time to move to my hands. So yeah, that's about it. Less than 2 minutes.
Thank you. And we got Evan and Josh who still need to go. So Melanie, if you want, you could pass it off to one of these fine gentlemen.
How about Josh?
Yeah. Kathy shared me the thing, but I just need to check it again. We're going over concerns and hopes, right?
What are your hopes and concerns about the culture forming around Web3 or tech in general? Yep.
Ooh. So my hopes are it moves towards something like biosynergy, where it's not just mimicking nature, but actually working with it in some kind of practical way. Avatar world, I guess, rather than solar punk. These kinds of things. That's just an imagery I have, I guess. Yeah, I got a lot of hope for how tech can fit in with reality. They have a lot more concerns, though. Like, a lot more concerns, but maybe that's just my biases. I'm trying to stick on the positive side here. Like I can see yeah, I can see like a very abstract infrastructure being very useful for specific instantiations in the real world. And like just speaking to Melanie's hopes, I guess, was that you know, monitoring and verification and these kinds of things can, attestation networks and the like, can be very useful for empowering those that are monitoring or, you know, doing work on the ground, I guess. My fear is that most, or my concerns, same deal, right, is that technology is just going to remain this disassociated, abstract thing that is used as a feudal platforms, I guess, is where I see a lot of things these days. And somebody said something about Twitter in that regard, and you know, it's data extractivism and that kind of stuff, or at least in my view. And so, yeah, I'd hope that we get a better medium. And that's the shaker. Evan, I think it's for you, right? With the last one in.
Yes, indeed. Well, my concern is that we're heading towards a technocracy and we're heading right into the arms of 1984. That already the foundation has been laid for all of this technology to be co-opted and used to further the goals of the systems that are already in place. But my hope is that that's not the case, and I see so many signs of just of the potential. I mean, not just this meeting, but my eyes are opened every day to another project and to another group of people and to just so many people that are working on the solutions. And so I really have a lot of hope, and that hope is in you, it's in me, it's in us. And really, I think I hope that this technology can be used in order to help center what's most important, which is the planet and like the 3D reality. One of my portals into this was being excited about stewarding wisdom in the metaverse, and that needing to be something that I was going to do, that we were going to do. I'm less sold that the metaverse is the solution. I need to hug you. I need to shake your hands. I need to be on my block and in the community. And I'm hopeful that this technology can become a tool that allows us to reorient back to our places and to our people, and have it in a way that really really edifies all of those things that I've mentioned. And my concern is that we get distracted, that logarithmic returns are too sexy and attractive for people to turn down. Back to you, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So we've got a few other questions here, and in a way we're kind of going from relationally abstract into more concrete as we go, because the questions coming up are, how do your hopes and concerns that you've shared relate to the projects that you're working on and promoting? And then the question after that is to talk more specifically about the projects that you're working on and promoting. So this next question here is kind of a bridge. Okay, we've heard what the concerns and hopes we have. So how does that relate to the actual projects that you're working on now? We'll get a second round after that to say more about what we're actually working on. So this question here isn't necessarily to explain the details of what you're working on and promoting. It's more like, I have these concerns, therefore, and then how does that connect to what you're doing? Okay, I hope that was clear enough. And we'll find out. So, Roberto, you want to kick us off?
Sure. So I think the concern of people talking about incentive systems and virtual world technologies, and then ultimately the question boils down into who's planting the tree, who's cleaning the beach, right? And we can all come up with very complex systems, and then probably the person that come up with the system itself, they're not planting trees in their daily life. So you're thinking you're doing regeneration, for instance, but you're not actually doing anything. You're probably actually using electricity and time. And so, yeah, this is how it connects to what I'm doing, which we have a second round with that. Yeah, okay, then I'll just pass it to Josh.
Yeah. There's so many things with technology that it's hard to say where to start. I guess I'm putting my time into projects that like flip things on their head. So I'm quite interested, for instance, in the difference between permission model and object capabilities in technical terms. And so like, you can see how they're opposing or inverse to each other. And so like just working with the kinds of systems I want to work with and be involved with is a good start. The platform feudalism, which I brought up before, I have a whole bunch of markdown notes that I put out on GitHub, open source, knowledge commons, to avoid the platform feudalism of any platform really, and they're inescapable, unfortunately. So, I'm still on Twitter or whatnot, shilling my propagandas, but I do my best. So I guess that's kind of how I'm thinking it. Just avoid the old system as much as is possible without becoming a hermit. And I'll pass over to Randall.
I am going to be shifting at the bottom of the hour, so thanks for this opportunity. The way that my hopes and concerns are connected to the projects that I'm working on is it's difficult to make a direct tie. On the one hand, I'm doing very technical work, but I'm doing it in a frame of really seeking to promote the shared conceptual space for subcommunities, for working groups of 5 or 10 or maybe 50, but probably not a whole lot larger, maybe larger. But the connection for me needs to be very loose so that the technology isn't like taking over or co-opting the human experience, but supporting the kind of connection that we can have here, the kind of connection that we can make in the world with skin that can touch skin, and support all that by providing a layer where we can persist the sense, the feeling, an expression of that sense, an expression of that feeling, that and the momentum that we get when we talk about stuff like we're talking about right here, and when we can persist that kind of material, or at least a representation of it, so that other people can pick it up and get a little bit more efficiency of the transfer of those memes, so that we can have deeper a cross between efficient transfer and deeper connection, someplace to get started with that connection between people and hold it through through the time. So it's not just whatever shows up on the tweet and new shiny. I don't know if that's coming across the way I'm saying it.
Josh, you're on mute.
I was just signaling about that much.
How much? A fair bit. Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And if it's with your consent, I'll spend just a moment on the next prompt about like what projects I am working on and promoting.
Randall, you're going at the 30-minute mark, is that right?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have any objections. I don't know about anybody else. I think we did the same thing with Manuel. It makes sense that we do it here. Yeah. Let's see what we can do in a couple minutes.
Yeah. So without getting into shill zone, I'll just explain that I've been working on well for a few years now. I've been working on essentially technology infrastructure, everything that I've needed when building software to make that software building process efficient. And this year, just in the last maybe 10 weeks, I built an organizational management platform, a platform for DAOs, platform for any organization. I've been thinking of it mostly in terms of cooperative organizations where the people who benefit from involvement in the organization are the people who are doing the work in the organization, people doing the work on the ground. And everything about that is centered first on shared meaning. And I'm sure you can see how that connects back to what I was saying before. The shared meaning that we have makes a big difference, a subtle looking difference maybe, but I believe a big difference in the way we actually go and do. And the more we can have that shared meaning together with the expression and the consistent representation of the shared purpose, meaning and purpose, goals, objectives, like these are the fundamentals of people getting stuff done together. And that's what I've been working on.
Thank you, Randall. And please put any links in the chat you want to direct folks to about that before you bounce here.
Oh man, I wish I had a link. I actually need to get access to somebody who has skills in that arena of making websites and specifically about promotion and marketing material. So I'd be glad to have any referrals.
If it's okay, I'm going to just jump in too and pop off after really quick. I'm got lots of work to do and I'm feeling the time. So really what Randall said though probably came up in the gimbal token experiment too, about how important it is to have the same values and purpose, because then we'll keep doing stuff no matter what. It doesn't matter about the money. We have the same goal, the same purpose, the same drive. And in my case, I'm really wanting to see personally how I can connect what I do with Cardano for Climate to the ground level. So that's, yeah, gonna work more in the dirt and get my fingers dirty and more dirt under my nails. And I'll be inspired by that connection more to figure some stuff out, have some more to give. Sorry, my cat's climbing up the ladder.
I can hear it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So thanks for the invitation to be here. And yeah.
Yeah, Melanie, do you want to put some links in that relate to Cardano for Climate? Do you want to say anything more about that project or leave it there?
I don't have any links handy. And if I do use my laptop right now, I'm kind of afraid that I'll
Nice.
I might cause some trouble there. But one thing, you've got a regenerative Discord channel, Reg Tech. In your link tree, the link is expired. So I'm
Awkward.
going to connect through that, and I'll shill there at some point and connect you guys to Cardano for Climate, and really great group of people. So yeah, awesome. So I am going to scoot out to take this opportunity to say goodbye to you.
Nice.
So thanks, you guys.
Yeah, thank you, Melanie. Really appreciate your presence here. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Ciao.
All right, Maya, you want to go?
Yes. What was the question? No. Yeah, it's a bit hard. I think I'm stumbling all the time over the project part, because for me, I guess it's a bit of a calling. it's more of a continuum there. And I guess the most important aspect is to challenge the status quo and demystify the messages of technology. Taking that veil of mystery that prevents other voices joining the conversation, which very often is in technology spaces. Lingo, things that, so many people, they feel the concerns intuitively, but they feel, silly and invalidated. They feel that something's wrong with them rather than something's wrong with technology. So just validating that kind of suffering and helping facilitate and translate between the spaces. That's, I guess, how for me, I feel like is where I really feel a calling to contribute, because I've never seen a person who wouldn't, after a little little workshop, be enabled to just voice and do anything, actually, just using the right language and using the right mindset. And that's beautiful, because once we can participate, we can change the discourse, and the good in people can come out, not only the bad. And I'll pass it on to Peter.
Great, thanks. How do my hopes and concerns relate to the projects I'm working on and promoting? Well, I'm not doing a lot of promotion right now. One of the things I talked about earlier involving my children has been, it's just been one of those really affirming life lessons that, yes, we should listen to the youth. They have quite a bit of wisdom. And, at one point I was, like, okay, maybe I'm designing Web3's application or something that's going to, they would be the type of people participating in building it for my children. And then as I engaged them in some of the initial ideas, I realized what brilliant perspective they have that I wasn't seeing. And so just a short example of what that looks like. after learning a little bit of the crypto space, like a couple all-nighters trading, right? Short trades just to see what that was about. Riding this fractal dragon up and down and noticing in my body like how that was feeling. So okay, well, I came up with some ideas, maybe a game that would help in the learning of such a challenge of what this means. And my son, I kind of shared it with him, and he just brought in such wonderful ideas. So, well, I'll share the simple kind of initial response after I described some elaborate thing. He said, well, the game should probably start in some kind of temple where you can choose whether you participate or not. So, oh, that's brilliant. Okay. And, sort of like at the core of that were all these identity issues and kind of the permissions and yep, that just brought me right back to home. With my daughter, she's, we're cooking and learning how to cook and being in the garden. And so a natural expression has been in our exploration of Web3 to think about how we might flip some of those incentives, and how would I get her off the computer, which she's not terribly prone to long periods of time on the computer, but sort of like how do we flip the incentives to get her into the garden, or to get myself in the garden. And so that's been interesting to work with her. She wasn't really interested in that part as much as just how do we connect the garden to the food we eat, to the recipes we share with others, and how we build community. So those are some very local, small ways of bringing those hopes and concerns into the projects. I am not sure who has not spoken, perhaps Roberto?
Yes, so the projects that I'm working on, because they are multi-scale, it's a project that's internal, like the personal project, then the local project, and the global project, right? So having this kind of multi-scale human where you are in the center of it. So there is, healing, personal healing, that's a personal journeys that everybody needs to take. Not the healing for necessarily even your own traumas, but even the generational traumas that you actually that you carry with you, and you're mostly not aware. And at the local level, the liminal village is like, really creating a place and experimenting with what makes people what makes people tick, and designing and experimenting with social technologies. And when you talk about the carrot and the stick in terms of incentive system, the carrot something you want and the stick something you don't want, the question is like, but what does the donkey want? Really, like how can we get that out without having to put this kind of systems on the side? So, and beside that, at the global level, which is now becoming more of a closely local, so it needs to kind of expand from the local to the global, is to form a regenerative network where this kind of integral regeneration of the self and the environment and the society and the planet can actually happen. And how do we facilitate creating new hubs or new clusters of communities wherever there is a need, people can actually come together to solve the need for each other. And the idea is to develop technologies that facilitate the federation of all kind of communities so that they become interdependent. And interdependent means that they need each other. So it's communities of people which need each other, communities that need each other. So once we actually create this entangled kind of network of need satisfaction, I think that's really a valid alternative to what we have right now, which is a disconnected society where the only thing you can get your needs satisfied is by using money. So I think that's yeah, my work is concentrated around these three aspects, and it's always different. So I'll pass it to Patty.
What you said. I feel a lot of resonance actually with what you said. I think, you know, the hopes and concerns that I mentioned were really, if I had to kind of pick a focus here in this conversation, it would be around like the embodiment and the bridging theory and practice. That feels so rich and alive within me right now, because I have started to have really important lived experiences of that within me, and feel the lived experience of how bridging theory and practice, the body and mind, creates really accelerated transformation. And so what feels like the unifying thread in projects that I would call are really seek to create those spaces and conditions for bridge work, for theory and practice to come together, for, you know, the ancient wisdom traditions that many of us have spoke to, and modern technology to come together in service of something greater, community, a greater ecosystem need. So that feels like what's really driving me, and I'm finding that I'm experimenting with different expressions of that. I see this right here as actually an expression of that. I'm finding expressions of that within different communities that have different sort of North Stars. I have a real drive around bridging the masculine and feminine leadership styles, and I'm really curious about that right now. In particular, for me, like, what does feminine leadership look like? And so forming containers where groups of women, or feminine beings is more appropriate to say, feminine forward, are coming together to experiment with that. And in my design practice, bringing in embodiment practices with design principles, with business principles that still have some merit to them when held within a bigger context. So I'm finding that the projects are feeling quite alchemical right now, where it's what are ways that we can start to weave and to bridge in a way that maintains the integrity of the theories that are being brought in, the people, like maintaining the sovereignty of the people who come in, the sovereignty or the integrity of the practices and principles that want to be held in greater proximity to each other. So that feels still really abstract, which is kind of the paradox that I'm running into, is like, how do we now embody these things? What does it look like to practice them? So I can say more, but maybe I'll leave it there for now in the interest of time and pass it to Chris.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just noticing we got 15 minutes left to the top of the hour. So we should be keeping that in mind. And I'm also noticing that after I go, we still have Michelle and Evan. Yeah. If I'm tracking correctly. Okay, cool. So good. Yeah. Projects that I'm working on and promoting, how it relates to the hopes and concerns. I'm seeing a strong emphasis in the commons, and focusing on public goods, focusing on the commons, and focusing on ways to support real people on the ground with work that they're doing. And so that gets me interested a lot in cooperatives, and how using distributed ledger technology as an instrument to support the coordination and work that these cooperatives are doing, to me is some major stuff that I'm into at the moment. So I'll save talking more about the specifics for now, and I'll pass it to Evan.
Thanks, Chris. I think for me, I think a lot about the criteria that I'm using in order to figure out which projects are the right projects for me to be involved in. Those projects are the ones where people realize that the what is only only partially important and the how may be even more important. And so there are these spaces that I find that are functional, or they're like halfway up the hill, but maybe it's not the right hill or the right route up that hill to be going down. So for me, it's very much like, who are the people? How do we come together in order to share the space that we're going to work on the projects together? And then from there, again, it's like, now that we've established the being's place, now we can organize the doing. Like Chris, I've been on my own journey towards cooperatives and seeing that there's a real potential. We need capital. We need dollars and cents and drachmas and pesos and euros and everything in between. We need capital. So the ways in which we can be upfront about that, and then do it in ways that are beneficial and integritous, but also meet the needs of the people that are putting in real time and their life energy, is kind of the place that I'm like bringing my focus and my lens to. How can we meet the needs of the people? If the needs of the people aren't met, then all of this attention that's brought everybody to this nexus point all of a sudden, people are going to start to get pulled back into, this doesn't pay my phone bill. Like, I need food in the refrigerator. And so there's this weird, like, the pandemic, I feel like, opened this window. The pandemic and Web3 are like, definitely there's this influx. And now all of a sudden pandemic's like dropping off, and there's inflation and there's war and the world is doing this thing, and like, needs all of a sudden I think are being magnified a little bit. And so how do we meet real human needs, so that these altruistic projects can actually live into their potential? And Michelle.
That's me. Okay. Woo. Great stuff. So I am really interested in something that's emerged since I have been working on this world build, this artificial intelligence world build with the team over the last couple of months, which is it was an eye-opener for me personally, having to do with something that's been referred to here as like the logarithmic growth, like the appeal of the faster, bigger, stronger, everything, whatever it is. And that technology is fundamentally driven by this. So we think of technology as sort of the limiting factor being zeros and ones, but there's also this limiting factor of the growth mindset of bigger, better, stronger. And harmonics have not been tapped yet. And that came so like clear as day, of something that also resonates with something that I've been working on for many years. And I'm finally seeing that potentially manifested in the tech space. And so it's really powerful. So harmonics is the intersection of my concerns, because what that also does is that it just obliterates that part of the paradigm that is also, it's the internal stressor, it's the visioner that doesn't know where the hell it's going. It's all of those things, and returning to harmonics, which is of course a synonym for resonance and synergy, but harmonics to me points to that more sort of fundamental piece that we can actually digitalize. So that's one edge. And then there was one other one I was going to mention, but I'm drawing a blank. So it'll come back in when I do my share of what I do. Thank you.
Thank you. And here we are with the time. So here's the monumental task now is 1 minute to share or point us towards what you're working on. And yeah, Eva's got the rattle. And final reflections. So yeah, point us towards what you're working on if you'd like. Say something about it. Share your final reflections, and then we'll close it out. And I'll stay on after hours, and anyone else who would like to, I'll hang out with you then. So, okay, I'll just go with who's on the screen here that I see to start it off. Peter, you want to start us off with final reflections and point us to any work? I'd love for you to at least mention something about warm data and Nora Bateson if you want,
Yeah.
but it's all yours.
Yeah, that's exactly what was coming to mind. I went a little bit kind of local in my earlier sharing. And one of the places that I'm active is with the warm data community and Nora Bateson's work, which also has the nonprofit International Bateson Institute, which carries on her work, the work of her father and grandfather. And we are kind of looking at a number of ways to, let's say, go parallel with current systems, like just parallel. And I can't say a lot about what's happening there, but I'll drop some links. There's a lot of gathering momentum and interest on how we might support communities and individuals, especially through the warm data. Well, I don't even want to call it a process, as a community, but there are theory and practice merging there. And it's quite interesting. I'll drop a couple links to Nora Bateson's work and the International Bateson Institute. That's where a lot of the things that I'm touching will come to, to the public eye at some point, when as in the warm process, we let it emerge. So can't hurry things along. But yeah, so I will drop that link. Thank you. And perhaps pass to Maya.
Thank you. It's a hard one to answer. Projects because I don't know, been the past couple of years hacking along on the hack along. Roberto and Josh are laughing, and just participating little bits and pieces here and there, not as something, I don't know how like not something monumental, but more on a human level, I guess, and just with the unconferences and just enabling the space for people to talk. Really, I think that was very very important. And like I said before, now I'm a bit in a transition period of what I'm going to build or how I'm going to incorporate that into actual, embodied technology or any kind of practice. And I'm still thinking about that one. I'm still exploring my options. But yeah, that's about me. I'll pass it on to Roberto.
Thank you, Maya. Right now, what we're trying to do is create a format for a replicable village where you can use 3D printers and technologies for water purification, food production. So you have all the zones taken care of, and that's kind of like an atomic thing that you can come and install. And we want to do this kind of 20 minutes away from here, where we basically have a property with 6,000 cubic meters. So we can just 3D print houses there, like with the local material. And that's what we're working towards. And of course, what we need in order to manifest this, we need the funding through potentially the crypto space. Anybody that wants to invest in a regenerative piece, pretty much, because the idea is that if you invest right now, when it's regenerated, it's going to be whatever you bought, it's much more valuable. So if it's a scalable system, then this can be replicated throughout the center of Italy, and that's and beyond, of course. And but the idea is to create indeed these communities that then can be interdependent with each other. And software-wise, WordPress plugin that is going to be able to federate the websites of all these different initiatives starting up. So it's very simple. Web 2.5, let's call it. I'll pass it to Josh.
So yeah, what am I working on right now is really just compiling guides and processes for community onboarding and community circle seed space. Solver is part of the work I'm doing with Regen. And so it's just really compiling all of that, as well as like documentation to make all of this stuff less cryptic. I know it's crypto, but like, you know, how do you, as just complete newbie to the space, you know, even engage with governance discussions at the ledger level and that kind of stuff? And so you need to have wallets and this kind of jazz, and then using the wallets with the other piece of technology. So I'm just writing guides for all that really at the moment. Yeah, that's where I am in the world. I guess call it product to community service. I'm not sure. I'll pass it to Kathy.
Thank you for your community service, Josh. A lot of things are kind of happening simultaneously. Part of my work is to stay a student, so I'm deep diving into East-West psychology as a key dimension with regenerative design, design thinking, systems work, to really try to enable more holistic seeing within myself. And so bridging those interior and outer practices. That's led to some writing projects and some art projects. There's some projects like this one where I'm co-holding spaces for what I would call emergent community seeing, and the focus of those containers are all a little bit different, but have the same ethos of kind of holding for greater seeing and for greater embodiment. And then I have a consulting practice where I bring the regenerative design work together with historical design strategy practices and systems thinking and psychology and embodiment work and mindfulness work to create the possibility of creatives, visionaries, founders for working at the level of the whole self, like engaging their whole self as they work in a truly regenerative capacity. So there's kind of multi dimensions to what's going on, but I can speak more about those things. But in the service of time, Michelle, I'd love to pass it to you.
Thank you. Yeah, so the other major part that ties into, you know, the Web3 conversations in general and where I'm headed is ontology. So there are so many ways of organizing these things, and Randall had mentioned shared meaning before. So, you know, ontologies go from digital, you know, programmatic type of functions all the way to, you know, the ontologies of each different language that gets spoken and how those things all tie together. So I do meta ontology, which is also, you know, kind of a dirty word these days, but that's what I do. And meta, because of Facebook, is what I'm referring to, the meta. So I actually have a patent. That's my new thing. And this has been many years in the making, 6 years in the making, or I should say patent pending, object integration, ontology, and algorithm. And it is very present for me in every way. I have 1 year to file a patent for it and make something happen. And so it's all coming together because I'm learning about the Web3 space, and I have a science background, so it hasn't been that big of a leap to integrate all these meaningful aspects of how things are getting built out right now in these novel ways. So getting an ontology in there that helps us make meanings and do it in a way that's coherent with complex systems and with nature. That's it. Small order. That's what I'm doing. And I put a link for two actually in the chat. And LinkedIn is actually probably the best way to see the scope of what I do in my background. Thanks.
I think I'm the last one left. I think that's right.
I'm passing, I don't know who hasn't gone. Your last 7. Is that what you were saying? Go for it. Yeah.
So working with the guild, obviously doing these campfire sessions is one of the ways that we actually address, and I'm involving myself in addressing the cultural aspect of Web3, taking the opportunity to resource organizations that that have the potential to take advantage of some of the regenerative thinking, some of the wisdom traditions, etc. One of those organizations is a community center here in Michigan called The Fledge, FLEDGE. Check them out. Really, really great stuff happening at The Fledge. And then my other 2 final reflections are, 1, I need to get my hands dirty. Really, I took that out of this, like I really need to get my hands dirtier. And I also need some type of hanging apparatus inside my domicile. Like Michelle, that looks really comfortable inside, and I'm inspired. So that's now on my wish list.
Thanks, Evan. I'm gonna put a link to our Giveth page that talks about the thinking behind these sessions that we're holding, and an opportunity for anyone, if you'd like to support us in this work as a gift. You're welcome to do it there. And in the interest of time, I'll also just put in a link to Regenerating Sonora. It's a nonprofit doing place-based community work that I helped co-found. And we're looking to put into practice some of the affordances that Web3 tech is offering. And so you can check that out there. And I think with that, we're going to go ahead and call our time here complete. Thank you all so much for bringing your hearts and minds and your whole selves here. Really appreciate it. And I'll stop the recording now. Thank you all.